The next thing we're going to look at is the tables ribbon. The tables ribbon, and the tables ribbon is right up here. And to get to there, we've looked at the home ribbon, but I just kind of want to get there by going through the layout and the document element ribbons, and then we'll come to the table ribbon and we'll learn how to create tables. But you'll see here under the layout ribbon, we've already done like changing the orientation, changing the paper size that our document's printing on, 8.5 by 11, and it's the standard US letter standard paper size. Putting in new breaks, right? Like we could get to new breaks from right there, or which drop-down menu if you wanted to insert a new break, it'd be that one, new breaks right there, right? We could change our margins. We've looked at doing columns, adding line numbers, hyphenation, adding a watermark, doing background color, doing borders, palm trees being my favorite. Grid, just stay away from it. And document elements, or go play with it, but I just don't find it useful, so I'm not telling you about it. Document elements, right? We've looked at inserting a cover page, insert a blank page. We didn't see that, but it's pretty self-explanatory. How to insert a page break again. Right? Doing a table of contents. We saw how to automatically create a table of contents off of our heading styles and how to, customize that with options or update it. But we were updating it by right-clicking when we had our table of contents out there. How to work with headers and footers. We've looked at that. We've looked at how to, do references right here. And this was really one of my favorite features about Microsoft Word. And we didn't really look at putting in footnotes and endnotes, or know really about it. We didn't look at this at all. But it's super easy and pretty straightforward, and really this is the better way to sort of do that. But if you do need to put in a footnote or an endnote, that's where you do it. We saw how to work with a text box. Text box, again, like, well, what's going on? Why do you have this in two places, right? But they do. And so there's the exact same text box, or you could do word art, which we saw, and we saw how to do equations. So the next thing really on this layout of ribbons, and you should be going like, wow, okay, this is awesome. I've learned a lot. And you have. And it's good, again, to roll around in it, because that helps make it stick. And so that's partly one of the reasons I wanted to sort of go through that review. But I didn't want you to think that we were just going from home to tables and just like bypassing these. We've actually gone through these very thoroughly. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new table, and I'm going to show you how to do that in the next video. In this video, we are going to learn how to create tables. I just thought it might be kind of funny to start a video out like I hear so many videos start out when you're watching like these professionally done trainings that come out of like some big publishing company. And I don't know. I know I talk fast, but hopefully you've realized, I'm sure you already know, you're probably not watching these videos anymore if my style does not work for you. But I like the content to be fired at me quickly, and I'm hoping that works for you too, because you've stuck it out this far, and so that'd be a bummer if you've come this far and you're like, gosh, Todd, I really wish you'd slow down. But I'm sure you've realized you can rewatch these videos, and it's better to like just get the content really quick and like see it and like be kept awake, because wow, so much information is coming at me so quickly that I just have to focus in and pay attention. I think that's better than, and now we are going to create a table. We will go up to the table ribbon and we will click new. Right? I just really like it to be much more colloquial and less formal and more casual and conversational. And anyhow, that's a little reflection on my style. Here we're going to create a table, and we do that under the table ribbon. And we click this little button right here, and we just pull out like what do we want our table to look like. And really what we're defining here is like, here is a table with 2 columns and 1 row. Here's a table with 3 columns and 1 row. Here's a table with 4 columns and 1 row. Here's a table with 4 columns and 2 rows, right? 1 row right there, 2nd row right here, 4 columns, 2 rows. So I just pull out what I want my table to look like, and then bam, there we go, emerald style. I haven't done that in a while. And there's my table. And if you want to start adjusting the table, you could come in and you could just start grabbing these little lines and, changing their layout. But if you try to grab this line, nothing's going to happen. Oh, I'm so wrong. It did move. What about if I try to move it back? It's totally moving. It wasn't moving for me earlier. I don't know why. But this is also a little thing you could grab right in that corner right there. So that's how you adjust your tables, right? You just lay it out, and then you can start putting things in. And if you have a header row, Microsoft Word likes to know that because it changes, right? You're seeing the formatting here change. If you have a total row, you're seeing again sort of a line come in for the total. If you want banded rows, right, that's going to update the way things look. If you want a first column, you can kind of look over there and see if any of that's changing. I don't see anything changing on that. Let's take that off. Banded columns, right? So now you can see what banded columns look like. I'm going to leave that off too. And then I could come in here with the styles when I'm ready to format my table. and I could just look through them, or, you know, this is actually much more effective. Hit this drop down and expand this so that I could see all of my different looks, and I could just kind of be like, hey, which one looks good? And really, none of them. None of them really jump out and grab my eye. I'd probably go with light blue. That's the kind of guy I am. And that just didn't really work out the way I was hoping it would. What happened to my different areas, right? Like, I want to be able to see my grid. So I could select the whole table right here, and then I could come up and I could choose borders, and I sort of want everywhere on that. So I hit everywhere, and my table's looking awful. But you could start to see like how you work with it. And so I'm going to select it again, and I'm going to like change that to a really light gray borders. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a cold going on, and do it all around. And so, you know, that doesn't look much better. But I'm no design expert. The point is you have a few options here. You've got create your table, and then once your table is created, let's just do a new one. You could choose header row, banded, first column, whatever, those options. You choose a style, and then you could start to adjust the way it looks. I have found these two things over here to not be very helpful. If anything, they just confuse me. Like erase, let's come over and erase, right? And it erased it. So if you want to get rid of stuff, that's actually pretty easy. But draw, let's draw. That's like not so intuitive, right? Erase works pretty well. Draw does not work very well. And erase isn't even getting rid of that one. So I'm going to hit undo on that. So that's tables. And generally speaking, if I'm going to create a table, I do that in Microsoft Excel, and then I bring that over and I drop it onto my Word document. I'm going to show you that in the next video. So we're talking about inserting tables into Microsoft Word, but what we're looking at right now is Microsoft Excel. And Microsoft Excel is really the best place to create tables because that's what Excel was built for. And Excel is nothing more than a bunch of different worksheets, and each worksheet is nothing more than a bunch of different columns and rows, basically one gigantic table. And this is really the best way to create tables and put them into Word. And you could even link to the table, so as the table changes inside of Microsoft Excel, those changes will be updated in Microsoft Word. And so I'm going to show you first of all how you actually will take a table from Excel and put it into Word. It's just as easy. You highlight the table, you press Command C, or right click it and choose copy, and then you go over to Microsoft Word and you do Command V. And then you have a few more options right here. So for instance, if I want to keep it linked with Excel, I would choose that option right here to keep it linked to Excel. Or if I want to sort of match destination style formatting, I'd choose that one and link it to Excel. So now that's linked to Excel. And anytime I make changes over here in Excel, those changes will show up here in Microsoft Word. Now, if this is the first time that, or if you're not very familiar with Microsoft Excel, I offer a great class in Microsoft Excel. I actually have two. I have one for the window, for Windows, and one for Mac. And if you go to Google and you search for Udemy Todd McLeod, it'll take you to my teacher homepage. Or if you're inside Udemy right now, there's somewhere where you could click a link if you're in my class, and it'll take you to right here. And if you scroll down, here are my classes. Right now I only have two, but by the time you're watching this, my Excel for the Mac will be up there. And if you want to take either of these Excel classes or my Computer Essentials class, because you're watching this video and because you've made it this far in the course, I will give you access for free to all of my other classes. And all you have to do is send me a little note. So somewhere here in Udemy, there's a way to send a note, right? Like a little message. Just send me a message and say, I was watching your Excel, your Word training, and you said if I emailed you, messaged you, you would give me access to your other trainings for free. And I certainly will. So send me that message. I'll give you free access to the Excel trainings. And then inside the Excel trainings, I really show you how to use Microsoft Excel. And I go over the entire process of integrating Microsoft Excel and Microsoft Word. So I don't want to repeat that here, particularly if you don't have the familiarity with Excel. But send me that message and I'll give you access to those other courses. And I just wanted you to be able to see, the functionality that's available, that you could actually take a really nice table built in Excel and drop it right into Microsoft Word. The next thing to look at that I want to show you is the Smart Art ribbon. But to get to the Smart Art ribbon, we were just at tables and we've gone through all these ribbons. There's this charts table right here in the middle. And I'm not going to cover the charts table because when you go and you say, hey, I want to insert a pie chart, guess what happens? It opens up Microsoft Excel. And so all of this is covered in my Excel training. And I think that when Microsoft Word or Microsoft was putting together Word, they were really kind of like let's just add this in because it adds a little bit more content. So I don't know if they're like stretching to like try to fill this space up or whatever. But anyhow, charts is really Excel. And if you're interested in learning about charts, send me that message and I'll give you free access to my Excel course. I'll message you back and give you a link that you could use that will give you free access to my Excel training. So what we're going to look at here in this this video is we're going to look at smart art. And smart art, the other day my wife was like, how can I get, you know, this type of a diagram into a document? I want to show this thing. And we already saw this at the beginning of this training, but I'm going to show it to you once more just because it's here. And I really think it's valuable. But you know, there's all these different cool things that you could put in. So for instance, I like this one right here, and this is the one we were playing with earlier. And I could say, you know, what was that thing from South Park? Invest, and then phase 2, and then phase 3, profit. So you can continue adding items here. And you get your different items right there, and then you can say, hey, make that go away. And there's my smart art. It gives you these really cool looking diagrams. And then when you click on your smart art, you get a format ribbon, and you have, you know, some different options even right up here, and you could always choose to reset your graphic right there. And you know, so just play around with these different options, know that they're here. There's a lot of really cool things you could do, hierarchy charts, things like that, relationships, you know, and it really helps make your documents look pretty outstanding when you put something like this together. There's a lot of really neat options, and people will be impressed, and it's really simple. All you do is click, and there's your smart art. So that's smart art. It's great to know about. So we're really being very thorough about how we learn Microsoft Word here, and we're just kind of going through everything and making sure that we've not only seen how do we actually apply some of these different tools that we use, like we saw with the first part of this training where we were creating that paper, but then also making sure we go through and take a look at each of the individual elements. And sometimes there's just a little bit of redundancy in there, which I think is good because the more you roll around on something, the more it sticks. And I'm sure this saying is going to stick by the end of this training. But you know, we're being really thorough in addition, and just making sure that you're very familiar with each of the different elements and areas within Microsoft Word and what they all do, what all these different little tools do. So the next thing we're going to look at, we've gone through all of these different ribbons right here. The next one we're going to look at is the review ribbon, and we're going to see how to do comments, tracking, reviewing, and protection. Basically comments, tracking, you know, and being able to do reviewing, you know, review changes and things like that. And then protecting your workbook, or sorry, your Word document. All right, so the first thing is comments. And to show you how to use comments, I've opened up another copy of the Harvard Trainer here, and I want to maybe, you know, add a comment right here to that. So I could just, you know, click that word, and I could come over to review, and I could add a new comment. And that new comment from Todd McLeod can be, do you really think we should have columns in the first chapter of the book? They're used nowhere else. And so now I have a little comment there, and that's it, right? So if somebody was editing my document or reviewing my document, or if I'm a teacher, and which actually I am, and I'm reviewing a student's document, I could drop little comments right on the exact things I want to sort of let them know about, or I could highlight, you know, a bunch of stuff and put a comment over a bunch of stuff. And so comments are really handy, really useful, a nice way to provide reviewing to somebody and sort of let them know what you're thinking. And then when you receive the document, right, I could go up to the start of my document and I could click next, and I could go to the next comment and then go next. I'm at the next comment. I could go previous, and I could say, okay, I read that, delete that comment. I could go to the next comment and say, okay, I read that. And I could delete all comments if I want. To heck with what this teacher said, I'm going to delete them all. Or I could delete that comment just right there. And so comments are really handy, really nifty, really useful, really cool, really good to know about. And I'm going to stop with the superlatives. Those are comments. The next thing I want to show you is how to use tracking. And comments are really cool, and tracking is also really cool, maybe even cooler. So if somebody sent me a document and they're asking me to like sort of review it and make changes and what are my thoughts on it, or if a student has submitted a document, or if you're in a business situation and somebody sent one over to you and you sort of had to like let them know what you were thinking about it, you could use tracking to really sort of convey on a very granular level anything that you would change about your document. And so when you turn on track changes, what you're doing is you are now tracking changes in the document. And I'm just going to show you how it works and kind of illustrate things through using them. So what if I said, thought, oh, you know what, it shouldn't be, it was all like a bad dream. It should just be, it was all like a dream. So I could click there and then I could delete bad. And it puts in a comment, deleted bad. And then I might come down here and I might, no little pitter patter, no voices, no squeals or delights or shout, no sounds of meta, just getting ready for work, just silence. Who knew that silence could be so terrible, so deafening, such a stark reminder. I'm trying to think about what I want to add. My life, I don't know what I want to add. It was completely changed. There we go. And so there I just added a sentence, and that's what it looks like when you add a sentence. And then if I wanted to, change something else, like maybe put in a semicolon right there, and then I will change, something else down here. Actually, let's do it all on the same page so you can see this. Maybe, take that out and make this others. All right, so there we go. We have some changes. Now we have some different views we could do. So here's final showing markup. Here's final without any of the markup. So I could just read through it if I want. That didn't get rid of the changes. It's just getting rid of the markup. So the markup's no longer showing. So you could see that one of the changes here was deleted bad. So it was all like a dream. And if I go to final, it still says it was all like a dream. I could go to original and show the markup. It was all like a bad dream. And, original showing the markup shows what I inserted, right? So it shows things that are crossed out, which is just a different way to look at it, right? Because when I was looking at it like this, it shows it without being gone. It shows what was deleted. Here it shows what was inserted and then has a little line through the deleted. So just different views. You can look at the same stuff. And then here is the original. So I could really sort of compare my document and I could see, how is it in its original state? How is it in its final state? And then what changes have been made? And I have like two views to see which changes have been made. I have the final showing markup and the original showing markup, both of those showing markup views. Show me what changes have been made. So the next thing you need to know about, showing the markup is that you have some options here. And you could choose to have comments showing. You could choose to have insertions and deletions showing. And you could go in here and you could get, have a lot of preferences. You could go into preferences and you could change how things appear. So if you want them to be a different text color or something like that, you could change that stuff. So that's how you turn on tracking and keep track of things, keep track of changes. And if you wanted to turn it off and make changes and then turn it back on, you could of course do that too. You just turn it on and off. In the next video, we'll see how we go through changes somebody has made and either accept or reject those changes. So now let's say that I sent this document to somebody and they made some changes to it and they had tracking on when they did it. And then when I received the document, I could now start using this right here to either accept or reject those changes. So I could go to the next thing and I could read and I could say, do I want to accept that? And I could accept all changes in the document, accept and move to next, or just accept. Pretty straightforward. I'm just going to say, no, actually, I really like it being is all like a bad dream. I think that's really important. And same options here, reject and move to next, reject change, reject all changes. So I'm going to reject that one. And it automatically moved me to the next one. No sounds of melody in the shower, inserted a semicolon, getting ready for work. And I'm going to reject that one also. And then the next one is it took out the comma, so I'm going to reject that. And then, my life, it was completely changed. So that was inserted. And if I wanted to sort of change the view, I could come here and I could see, okay, that's been added, right? And I could see the final there. I'm going to maybe stick with that view because it's saying, do you want to accept that? And I'm going to reject that one. I'm rejecting everything. I really like the way I wrote it the first time. And for argument's sake, just to illustrate it, I'll accept this one and I'll accept that one and I'll accept that. Right? And so now it says, okay, you've gone through all the changes and you accepted and rejected them. And I could also go between the different changes with next or previous. And then I could see the changes over here. So just to illustrate that, I'm going to go back to tracking and get rid of that, and then that's deleted, and I can see my changes over here. I don't find this really all that useful. That's the review pane, but that's how you use tracking and then also changes to accept and reject changes. So it's a really useful, handy thing. I really like it. I think it's one of the greatest things about Microsoft Word. The next thing we're going to look at is protecting a document. So let's say you want to be able to protect it. You don't have people going into it, or if they're going into it, they can't change it, or whatever. Various levels of protection. So one of the first things you could do is you could go to Word and you could go to Preferences. And when you go there, you see this one right here, Security. And so if you click on Security, you could set a password to open and also a password to modify. So if you just think about those, you could say, all right, you need a password to even get into this one. And then you could also set it so, hey, you don't need a password to get into it, but you just need a password to modify it. And if you want to try and change it, you need to enter the password. So anybody could open it if this was the case, but only people with the password can modify it. Or here, only people with the password could open it, and once it's open, it can be modified. Or here, only people with the password could open it, and then people with an additional password can modify it. So you got like those different options right there, and that's one of the ways that you could protect your document. It's also interesting, really quickly, just to mention this as an anecdote. You have privacy options. Remove personal information from this file on save. So if you are ever going to do like whistleblower type activities, or be Edward Snowden or something like that, or send information anonymously to reporters, you definitely want to do that right there. And warn before printing, saving, or sending a file that's tracked changes or comments. So those are just some extra options there. You also have this one here, protect document. So not only do we have password to open, password to modify, but we have protect document. And you could get to protect document this deal right here the exact same way right here, right? You could see these right there. And you have a couple of different options. Well, what do those different options mean? Well, it's pretty clear here what read only means. So if you put a password on that, that's going to be pretty much the equivalent of, don't allow people to make changes. But here's one other place where you could add an additional password that will do exactly the same thing as that other password right up here, where we were Word, Preferences, Security, password to modify, right? You need a password to modify. Here, it's read-only unless there's a password, right? That's the way it'd be saved. But what are these three other ones? So you could pause this video right here. And I looked this up online. I just went to Google and I searched for Mac, Word, Protect, and found this up. And so these options here, which are track changes, comments, forms, read-only, track changes, comments, forms, read-only. You can read the differences between what those do. And so I'll just go through one of them here. Ensure that all changes are tracked so that you can review them. Users cannot accept or reject changes or turn off change tracking. Right? So if you wanted to see, like, did anybody modify my pristine original work of art, you could turn this on and nobody's going to be able to modify it without you knowing it, right? Because when they send the original document back, you'll see what they did to it. Here you could also choose to, I'll let you read through them. It's pretty self-explanatory. All right, so that's protecting your document, and there's a couple of ways you could do it. I'm not sure why block authors is blurred out right there, or even what that does. I've never used it. Maybe if we were in a network shared environment where there were many authors, that would come into play. If it was sort of a collaborative document, we wanted to say, hey, Jimmy can't contribute to this anymore. We could block Jimmy. And then permissions over here, right? This is something, too, where you have to set up certain credentials and things like that. So it's just a little bit more involved. And if you ever need to get to that level, then I'm sure you could just Google that and read about how to do that. But the most essential, important stuff, the most frequently used stuff, the thing that 99% of the time, if you need protection, you're going to go to, it'll be this one right here, and it'll also be this one right under here. Sorry, Word, Preferences, Security, password to open, password to modify. Quite frankly, these are the most important ones. Those are the ones that when I need to protect something, like just make sure, okay, that's private. That's where I go to do it. All right, so that's I'm just going to put that back. That's how you protect your document.